President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi returned home after participating in the extraordinary joint Arab-Islamic summit in Riyadh over the Gaza Strip. Earlier on in the day, the president addressed the attendance and called for an immediate ceasefire of the war in Gaza with no conditions. The president stressed that Egypt has repeatedly warned against the unilateral policies, reiterating the caution now that the failure to stop the war in Gaza threatens to expand the military confrontations in the region. The details follow.
Addressing the joint Islamic Arab Summit in Riyadh, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi extended his appreciation to Saudi Arabia for hosting this extraordinary gathering in an exceptional circumstances as the innocent people of Gaza are being killed under siege, suffering from practices of inhumanity, urging a serious stance from the international community to maintain the minimum of its political and moral credibility. The president continued that from the very beginning, Egypt has condemned the targeting, killing, and intimidation of all civilians on both sides, and all actions that are contrary to international law and international humanitarian law. President Sisi emphasized that the policies of collective punishments against civilians are unacceptable and cannot be justified by self-defense or any other claim, calling for an immediate stop for these barbaric actions. He also stated that the international community, especially the UN Security Council, will bear a direct responsibility to work seriously to achieve the following without delay. First, an immediate and sustainable ceasefire in the Gaza Strip without restrictions or conditions. Second, stop all practices that target the forced displacement of Palestinians inside or outside their homeland. Third, the international community fulfills its responsibility to ensure the security of innocent civilians from the Palestinian people. Fourth, ensuring safe, rapid, and sustainable access to humanitarian aid, and Israel bears its international responsibility as an occupation brutal power. Fifth, reaching a formula to settle the conflict based on the two-state solution. Sixth, conduct an international investigation into all violations committed against international law.
On the sidelines of the joint Arab-Islamic summit in Riyadh over Gaza, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met with a number of world leaders. They agreed on the importance of achieving a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip and offering protection for the Palestinian people from the Israeli brutal aggression. On the sidelines of the joint Arab-Islamic summit, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi with the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed ibn Salman in Riyadh and stressed the Egyptian appreciation to the historic brotherly relations with Saudi Arabia. Presidential spokesperson Councillor Ahmed Fahmy said that the two Arab leaders expressed deep worries regarding the dangerous escalation in the Gaza Strip, asserting the importance to unite the regional and the international efforts to ceasefire and protect civilians, as well as confronting calls to displace the Palestinian people. The two sides also vowed to resume the consultations to cement the Islamic Arab joint vision to achieve comprehensive settlement based on the two-state solution and the establishment of an independent Palestinian state according to the international legitimacy. Also on Saturday, President al-Sisi met with the Syrian counterpart Bashar al-Assad, where the two leaders confirmed the full rejection of the liquidation of the Palestinian cause and the displacement of the Palestinian people, as well as the importance of achieving ceasefire and allowing the access of humanitarian aid to the Strip. The two presidents also tackled the situation in Syria, where President al-Sisi stressed the Egyptian keenness on achieving a comprehensive political settlement that serves the interest of the Syrian people and maintains the Syrian unity. Later, President al-Sisi held a meeting with the Jordanian King Abdullah II, in which they exchanged visions regarding the Israeli military escalation in Gaza and the deteriorating humanitarian situation in the Strip, and urged the international community to shoulder its responsibility to reach a humanitarian truce and guarantee sustainable aid to the besieged enclave. President al-Sisi also held talks with the head of Sudan's Sovereign Council, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, renewing Cairo's commitment to support Sudan in all domains, hailing the historic strategic ties that bind the two brotherly nations. For his part, Al Burhan expressed appreciation for the Egyptian efforts to maintain Sudan's unity and stability, especially through receiving thousands of Sudanese citizens in the framework of the Egyptian active regional role. Both sides discussed a number of issues of mutual concern as well as boosting bilateral ties. The president also met the Turkish counterpart, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, where both stressed the importance of achieving an immediate ceasefire in Gaza in order to prevent more humanitarian deterioration in the Palestinian Strip and the importance of unifying the international efforts that aim at applying the two-state solution. Meanwhile, President Assisi met with the Iraqi counterpart Abdul Latif Rashid, where they discussed means of boosting bilateral cooperation in various economic and political aspects, as well as the Arab and the regional issues of mutual concern, on top of which is the Gaza crisis. Also on Saturday, President Assisi met the Iranian counterpart Ibrahim Raisi, where President Assisi reviewed the Egyptian efforts that aim at reaching a ceasefire and delivering humanitarian aid to the Gazans, as both leaders exchanged their views on means of averting the expansion of the conflict to the rest of the region. The Arab Islamic Summit hosted by Saudi Arabia called for an end to the war in Gaza and rejected justifying the Israeli actions against the Palestinians as self-defense. During a press conference held after the gathering, Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan stressed the need to unify the efforts and come out with a unified collective position. Apologize for the technical glitch, and we head to the Arab leaders and the Iranian president meeting in the Saudi capital, who roundly condemned the Israeli actions in the war against Hamas in Gaza as fears mount the conflict could draw in other countries. The details.
In his speech before the extraordinary Joint Arab-Islamic Summit, Arab League Secretary General Ahmed Abul Ghait said that Israel's war on Gaza is not the first, but he hoped to be the last. Meanwhile, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, the OIC Secretary General Hisham Ibrahim Taha called for a ceasefire and rejected forced displacement of Palestinian civilians. In his statements before the attendees, the UNRWA chief Philip Lazzarini said Gaza people lack humanitarian rights and feel abandoned by the world, adding that a strong support is direly needed for an immediate ceasefire and unconditional delivery of aid. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said at the summit that it is a shame that Western countries, which always talk about human rights and freedom, remain silent in face of the ongoing massacres in Palestine. Qatar's Emir Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani said that his country is making efforts in mediation to secure the release of Israeli hostages in Gaza and that he hopes a humanitarian truce would be reached in the Strip soon. Sheikh Tamim said the international community failed to bear its legal and ethical responsibilities, wondering for how long will the international community treat Israel as if it is above international laws. Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi called on Arab and Islamic governments to designate Israel's military a terrorist organization, citing its current operations in the Gaza Strip. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas said that Palestinians are facing an unmatched genocidal war, and the West Bank and Jerusalem face daily violations by Israeli settlers, calling on the United States to pressure Israel into halting its offensive on Gaza. Abbas also said Palestinians needed international protection in face of Israeli attacks. He added that every party backs occupation is responsible for the killings in Gaza, urging the UN Security Council to announce a resolution for a ceasefire. Jordanian King Abdullah II, for his part, stated that this war is an extension of the 7 decade of violations, saying that the people of Gaza are subjected to an ugly war that must stop, otherwise the region will reach a major conflict that will affect the whole world.
He added that Israel's prevention of water, food and medicine from entering Gaza is a war crime. Meanwhile, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad said a lack of concrete punitive measures against Israel would render the summit toothless. He said no Middle Eastern country should engage in any political process with Israel, including developing economic relations, until a lasting ceasefire is reached.